I, the Poptimist, and today we have Chef Johnny Morgano.
It is I, Chef Johnny, yes, here in the flesh.
Of the Southern Italian Personal Chef.
Yes, of the Southern Italian Personal Chef Service. You can find us on the World Wide Web at southernitalianchef.com.
And what's your socials?
I am on Instagram. I am on Twitter. Well, it's not Twitter. It's X now, but
it's still Twitter in my heart,
TikTok. Dude. I'm on Facebook. I should be on YouTube as well, yes. And that's all at the Southern Italian Chef.
Why the Southern Italian?
That's an interesting question in the sense that I literally just sat down writing out a list of potential names, just things that came to mind as possible ideas, and that was one of them. I had my wife kind of go through it was like 20, 30 of them and kind of give me her favorites, and she narrowed it down to like 3 or 4, and then that's basically where it originated out of, but I had to kind of think about it before I was officially going to crown it as my business name. So in reality, I liked it in the sense that it kind of brought in both sides of what I cook for the most part, which is Southern style barbecue and Italian. And most of the Italian that I'm making is Southern Italian. So it was kind of a double meaning in the sense that most of the food that I'm cooking is from the southern part of Italy. Most of the food that I'm, cooking from America is from the southern part of the United States, and that's kind of where I came up with the whole tomato pig thing. I was trying to think of commonalities between southern Italy, southern America, and obviously the tomato, the pig seem to be two big things, and I don't know, I just put it into AI, tomato pig, and they shot me back some freakish looking, creature that I would not recommend using as a logo. And then after
was it more horror looking?
Yes, it was like something like it was way too real was the problem. That's the key was I had to type in the cartoon, tomato pig.
Kid friendly.
It was a much more pleasant, cute little guy. Where the first one looked like something out of some horrible sci-fi movie.
So you have experience in the past kind of operating on your own as in the cooking space in the industry, which you used to have a food truck, and you had left your job for that back then when we were
working
together. You're one of the first people that I met here in Nashville.
That's right.
Can you talk a little bit about your experience doing the food truck and what that was like and what you kind of learned doing it?
Well, the food truck was very important in my journey, as some people would say, in the sense that I had to actually do it professionally to know that I enjoyed it. And that was the first chance that I really was able to cook on an everyday, like for my own business type situation. I had cooked on small scales in the past, but never every day getting up and cooking. And that was much more enjoyable than any other profession that I had been involved in prior. I worked in call centers and I brokered freight, which is what I was doing when I was with you. And those are all fine occupations. It's nothing against any of those worlds, but just wasn't for me ultimately. And I think I was trying to get away from them always, and I did, and I really enjoyed it. I was literally just trying to figure out a way to get back, in the sense that I had done the food truck and kind of realized that that's not really the path that I would really want to do, in the sense that the truck aspect of it complicates things. You're just you're in a mobile kitchen. You're pretty much trying to get in people's lunch hours and shoot it out as fast as you can. And I'd much rather have kind of a relationship type situation where I'm cooking for people that I actually know, not necessarily feeding the masses out of a window at lunch hour, which is probably the least rewarding part of the. And I some people really like that, seeing people eat your food for the first time and all that is great. I mean, I found that rewarding, but at the end of the day, mass producing food is not nearly as enjoyable for me personally than doing it on a smaller scale for less people and, getting to actually know the people as opposed to just total strangers that'll eat the food and never see them again.
What was that time period like when you were making that jettison from working a more typical 9-to-5 life into working for yourself first go around?
You talking about with the food truck? Or you talking about with this?
With the food truck.
Okay.
We're gonna get to this.
Well, the food truck was definitely a lot of work in the sense that there was a lot to be done as far as red tape. Lots of we had to find the actual truck. We had to go around truck shopping and then get it wrapped and then get it built out. I was literally hounding some guy for like a month and a half who had the truck up in a storage unit in White House, getting the whole thing built out. And once we got that figured out, we could officially get up and running, go to the city and get it approved. And then from there, we were up and running. And it really wasn't that big of a deal as far as kind of getting events in the beginning. Now, obviously, things slowed down. We started in like September, which probably wasn't the best time for a food truck. Now, we were pierogi, so it wasn't exactly a hot weather item. So it was actually worked well in wintertime, which is when we were selling a majority of what we were doing. But yeah, it was definitely a lot of work in the sense that I was cooking all the food. There was literally nothing coming off that truck that I had not made by hand. So I was producing all of it. So every day I was getting up at, 6 a.m., whatever, and start cranking out pierogi. If I wasn't doing that, I was going to the truck to fill it up and head out to whatever event. So my days, every day, regardless of the weekend or whatever else, consisted of me making pierogi or getting on the truck and going out and selling pierogi. So it was nuts in a lot of ways, but I worked more than I ever worked in my life easily, but it was definitely the most fun, enjoyable, parts of it in the sense that I like to keep busy, and it was all food.
Yeah, well, I remember you had come to my apartment. We had talked about a little bit about this last time, but you had come to my apartment and you dropped off some pierogies and you showed me the truck. And I was just so impressed with it. I thought it was so cool because I had left that job we were both working. I mean, towards the end, you were kind of my manager too.
Oh, I'm sure. I was going to say I was a sales team leader at one point, so it's very possible.
But I think I kind of jettisoned out before you did. But not long after that, I think, is when you had started. So you were constantly working around the clock. I imagine super long days for the most part too.
Oh yeah, because there's nobody else. So if we booked something, if we had to have pierogi for that event, I was the one that had to make it. There was no other anybody to lean on, and I did not have any other kitchen help. So I'm very much used to working on my own. In a lot of ways, I prefer it. Now, I would clearly love to bring on some assistance at some point down the road. Now, at this, right now I'm fine. But, I definitely like to be in control of things. I think that is just part of my personality and just the nature of my being. And, I don't think the corporate world was ever really meant for me. And, maybe I'm wrong about that in some way, and there's some other, role out there that I'm unaware of, but I highly doubt it. I'm pretty sure.
I highly doubt that as well. Well, it was like right from the jump of meeting you, and there was a full cast of characters that we worked with.
Oh, yeah.
But it was kind of like we were the rejects a little bit, our crew.
Well, I'm sure that there was some, a little bit of that as far as the weird kids in the class, I'm sure. But, I think it all depended on what it was ever-changing fluid. At that business, you were up, you were down, you're up, you're down. So
high turnover rate as well.
Oh yeah, lots of that in the sense that it's a sales job, baby. You gotta earn. You gotta get out there and put asses in the seats.
Well, you have like myself a ton of experience cold calling as well,
yes.
which is handy when you become an owner of your own
Sure.
business, because I know one thing that you mentioned that you were interested in kind of doing was being, what is it called when you're a chef for like a fraternity? You're just fraternity chef?
Fraternity chef, yeah. That's as far as I know. Fraternity cook, fraternity chef, whatever, yeah, whatever you want to call it.
And you had mentioned that you were going like
So
door to door at
went to-
fraternities in your full getup.
I went to Vanderbilt dressed as I am right here and walked around all the fraternities, got to the SAE house, which was the only house that actually had people sitting outside, and asked them, what's the deal with the fraternity cooks here? Any of the houses have cooks, or anybody need, cooks at any of these houses? How does that work? And they were pretty much telling me that they would love to have a fraternity cook at their house. And about 10, 15 years ago, Vanderbilt made some change where they brought on some company that now handles all the food for all the fraternities. So basically, if there was any fraternity cooks that were at Vanderbilt, they got the boot, more or less, and now this company controls all the food for all the fraternities at Vanderbilt University. So if anybody wants to write a letter or make a change there, you can let me know. I'll be there to support whatever cause.
You know that the listeners of this podcast are willing to write letters.
They will write letters.
Make a statement.
I believe it. It's an army behind you.
Yes,
I have no doubt.
I'll contact Angela White and see if she can post about it.
I believe that she can get some attention. She can get some eyes on this for sure. Yes.
What was your experience cooking growing up?
So cooking growing up, I started very young. I was making milkshakes. I was, very into I think I told you this last time, Outback Steakhouse. I was making their salad dressing, bloomin' onion, silly things for the most part when you're young. It wasn't like I was really getting anything too serious. But as time went on, I got more and more involved, and I started looking into like frying, chicken tenders and things like that. There's a place in Franklin, or I guess Cool Springs area, called Maniacs, which makes literally some of the best fried chicken tenders I would say I've ever had in my life, and easily in this area. And I was trying to recreate their chicken tenders for most of my high school, and still haven't quite got it. All I can tell you is they put fresh thyme in some kind of a batter. It's definitely like a batter, and the chicken is just incredibly fresh. So I shouldn't go into too much detail on these people, but yeah. In any event, very good.
I've never
that was an inspiration, though. I will say, I still eat there all the time.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's right next to Costco, so it works out.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Very, very convenient.
Have you ever been to the Brown Bag in
I have.
Franklin?
Or no,
Cool
I know
Springs?
what you're talking about. I have not been there. I think it's like it's a different setup in the sense that I think it is like kind of I want to say it's like a catering type thing where you go in there and pick up like pre-made meals maybe or something of that nature.
That might be something else that they do, but like I've
clearly
always gone in whenever I go there. They have a really good steak sandwich. I'm a big fan of that. It's hard to find a good Philly cheesesteak in Nashville.
I know. There's trying to think the one of the better ones that I'm familiar with. If I think Philly cheesesteak is Penn Station. I don't know if you. We've eaten there before, as a matter of fact.
Well, you and I have.
Yes, I just realized that. Yeah, just click. Brentwood, I'm sure I've heard that's good too. I think I have had that actually. That is a good one. Yes.
Yeah.
What's your beef with Penn Station? Let's talk about that.
Well, I just feel like Penn Station is just okay. It's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say grew up on it. I started eating it in college.
Yeah.
And I remember
in Knoxville.
Yes. I remember eating half of my giant Penn Station Philly cheesesteak, and I was extremely hungover from the night before and definitely threw up half the sandwich and then was so impressed with how good the sandwich was, I did manage to go back down and eat the rest of the other half. So I think that's a testament to the quality of that sandwich in the sense that if you're willing to eat something after you threw it up, that's pretty good. This is probably not great podcast fodder, but
this is excellent podcast fodder.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Jersey Mike's has a pretty good cheesesteak.
Jersey Mike. Yes, I do get theirs. I get the Big Kahuna.
Yeah.
I was going to say, for a second, I'm thinking Subway or whatever, and I don't do Subway.
Yeah. Dude, you know what's so funny? I feel like Subway at one point, it was a craze sweeping the nation. I feel like no one really fucks with Subway.
People were trying to lose weight on it. They saw Jared out there dropping 1,000 pounds and figured I got to start eating Subway to start losing weight. And then it turns out he's a heroin addict and he's diddling kids or whatever. I don't even know what's going on with that guy. I don't even want to watch that documentary. So
Subway fell from grace.
Oh yeah,
big time.
I don't know how much they were, really high level. I don't know what they. I mean, it was the highest. I don't know if you realize that there's more Subways in the U.S. or it was at one point. I don't know what it is today, but at one point there were more Subways in the United States than there were McDonald's.
I did not know that.
Subways were outnumbered the McDonald's, so they're more prevalent and they were big. I think at one point. I think they got taken down hard. But
did you see that this snack wrap is coming back at McDonald's?
I did see my wife. I saw your post about it. I almost tagged my wife because she loves those things, and then she brought it to my attention last night how now McDonald's is using it as a social media ploy, basically. They're showing everybody requesting it, I guess via messages.
I struck a deal to bring it back.
Well, hey, thank you, sir.
Happy I can assist.
What would we do without you?
Happy I could assist. Dude, honestly, I fucking love McDonald's.
I mean, that is my fast food of choice for the most part, like growing up. Now, I don't eat as much of it now, but if I was, ages 25 and younger, if I was going to fast food, I was going to McDonald's. And I still eat Big Macs, not as much, but that's what I'm getting when I go there.
Yeah.
The Big Mac is delicious, and it's all about the sauce, which I did reveal their key ingredient to the Big Mac sauce, which is in fact French dressing. I don't know if you saw the Smash Burger
No,
episode.
I didn't see that.
You'll have to check that out.
I'll check that out.
I'm sure you're glued to it.
But I feel like In-N-Out Burger is about to be the next craze in Tennessee.
Oh, well, that's going to be real big because they just put the new, I don't know if it's headquarters or whatever,
in
new
Franklin.
office in Franklin, and then I mean, it's great. I've had it once or twice. I think maybe once, maybe twice at the airport in L.A. We had it right before we flew out, and I mean, it was good. I wasn't like,
you weren't blown away by it.
I didn't feel like I would go out of my way and wait in long lines for it, but I thought it was, obviously way better than McDonald's or better than most of the places. I would probably put it on par with Shake Shack, and that's probably like half the price. So, I mean, that's...
Shake Shack I do like.
Yeah, Shake Shack is good in the sense that it's a quality burger, but it's also
expensive.
Yeah, it's like Five Guys. And,
which Five Guys also very good, but you have to mortgage...
Well, at that point, you might as well go to a restaurant.
Yeah.
And eat I'll go to Chili's and get one of their burgers before I go to Five Guys and pay less. It's insane.
Well, I realized one day I went to Five Guys and I looked at the receipt, and like the week before that, I had gone to Longhorn with my dad and we got burgers there. And it was actually ended up being cheaper at Longhorn for me and my dad to both eat with burgers, beer, all of that than it was just to get a burger and fries.
I believe
at Five Guys for two people with drinks.
I think I figured it out. It was like $15-20, I think, for just the burger, and that's not including.
Yeah, you walk out of there, it's about $60, and you have to tip as well.
Yeah, I think I put like bacon on it or something, so it might have been something extra on it, but it wasn't much. It's not like I was doing anything wild and crazy. But have you been to Jack Brown's?
I have been to Jack Brown's.
That's one of the better ones around here as far as burgers. Edley's makes a good burger, and so does Martin's, which you would not expect.
Well, I have had Martin's burger before. I had their brisket burger a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And it was very decadent, and I could only eat half of it.
Was it just actual brisket, or they ground the brisket?
So it was actual brisket on top of the burger.
Okay, got it. All right. Yeah.
So it was very good, but I was like, I can only eat half of this.
Yeah.
Hugh Babies. Have you had Hugh Babies?
I have had Hugh Babies.
That's the owner of Martin's.
Good. Yeah. Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, Martin's, I would say, is somehow way better than Hugh Babies, but
I like Hugh Babies. I prefer their chili cheese dogs if I'm going there.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get their chili cheese dogs, or their chili cheese fries are also good. But yeah, Hugh Babies is a good quality burger, I feel.
It's a good quality burger.
Yeah.
It's a tasty burger.
I feel another place that's fallen from grace is Burger King.
That was another one where
You were never into Burger King?
I never saw it. Yeah, I never saw it as being
It was always inferior.
desirable. Yeah, exactly. No, I feel like, it's the flame broil, but it just tasted like charred crap. Like I never really felt like it was ever like their biggest selling point was the flame broiled, and that was probably my least favorite part of the burger. Was I just never thought their burgers tasted like good. I don't know what to say.
They had onion rings. And there's not many fast food places that have onion rings.
I appreciate onion rings as well. I get them at the Whataburger and the Steak and Shake. Also, 2 quality fast food burgers.
So, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm not a Whataburger fan, dude.
Really? Well, I can see that to some degree because I did get it one time as is with the mustard on it. I don't put mustard on my burger normally. And with mustard, and somebody pointed this out to me, so it might have something to do with like ringing in the back of my head, but a Whataburger and Sonic taste eerily similar.
Yes, that's my whole thing. And it's not even that I dislike Sonic, but Sonic doesn't dress itself up as something else. I feel like Whataburger tries to sell itself as Shake Shack, as Five Guys, tries to put itself in that same tier, and it's not.
I can see somewhat what you're saying. Like, I definitely feel like Whataburger is like I think of Whataburger, I think of the Texas fast food. It's like somebody came, we're going to make Texas-sized burgers, basically.
Yeah.
You look at the size of them,
it's big.
It's sizable, yeah. And I always get, their, like, whatever their specialty burger is. I don't ever get their just normal standard.
Burger.
And if I do, I got to remember to tell them no mustard, and I usually get without ketchup too. But if I go there now, I get the sweet and spicy bacon burger, and that thing is delicious. I will eat that. I might eat that right after this. Who knows?
I'll be open-minded and try it. They also have the most superior thing on their menu, in my opinion, is
Whataburger?
Yes,
Okay.
The Dr. Pepper milkshake.
Okay, I can be for that. I don't really.
It's good.
I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, Dr. Pepper is a delicious flavor. So I used to have the Dr. Pepper chapstick as a child, and I do remember being a big fan of that.
Yeah. So you have started the Southern Italian.
Yes, we are up and running.
What has led you to doing this? Was it the same deal where you were just wanting to get out of the corporate grind and cook and do your own thing again?
Yeah, like I was telling you earlier, I think I was, since the food truck was over, I was obviously doing, freight world stuff just because that's what I was familiar with and, used to. But behind the scenes, and my whole life, I think behind the scenes, I've been trying to figure out, a way to cook for a living, basically. And, I don't know. I never knew the best route to go about it. And I've heard of people being personal chefs. And I remember I told my wife, whatever, when I came out of college, that was kind of the thought process I had, in the sense that I lived with 2 guys my last year of college, and I had kind of set up like a meal plan for both of them. They called it the Johnny Meal Plan, where they would pay me like, $25 a week. I would go out and buy groceries, and I would pretty much cook for free or whatever. I didn't really care. And I would just make food 4 or 5 days a week, and they would help me cover all the ingredients. And from there, after I graduated, I didn't really know what I was going to do. It was right after the the Great Recession or whatever the hell they called it. And I had a psychology degree.
I did not know that.
Yes, psychology degree is not that useful unless you're planning on going into psychology. So I was definitely not trying to do that. My logic with my psychology degree while I was in college was, I'm going to go into some kind of sales type role. This is good to know how the mind works. I feel like I can definitely use this information for my own good. And so, I graduated with my psychology degree. I figured I'd go into sales. And at that point, 2010, there was just not exactly a lot of opportunities out in the world. It was definitely a little tough sledding out there. And I'm sure if you had like business degrees and stuff like that, I'm sure you could get hired real easy as a salesperson. But I worked at a call center. That's where I went. I went straight to the Xerox/Sprint/ACS. I don't know. The company got bought out by Xerox at one point. But we were outsourced by Sprint cell phone, so I was basically answering calls for people with billing issues or issues with their phones or whatever else, which ultimately set me up perfectly for my next job, which was freight brokering, where I'm literally on the phone all day long. And
Chaos.
What people don't appreciate is an inbound phone call versus an outbound phone call are two very different worlds, where it's very, very calm, easy to deal with when you're in control and you're making the phone calls. When you're just literally getting bombarded, and I'm sure that there's people hearing this that have worked in the call center can appreciate that as soon as that call is over, it's literally the next one's coming right on your headset. And you're nonstop taking calls. If you get up to go to the bathroom or whatever, they'll log you out of your phones. It's like this, I'll log you, I should say, they clock you out.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cutthroat in the sense that they don't allow for any kind of,
Well, it's boiler room style.
Well, it's not supposed to be. TQL was more like at least you could make that argument. But the call center, you're literally just supposed to be helping people answer their billing calls, and you got people figuring out ways to game the system, and that's what this country is all about, especially in the sales world, is gaming the system. They're coming in and they're figuring out how to make the most money off of these calls, and so they're rushing people off the calls, and they're taking as many because you got paid per call, so you're going to take as many as you can, and you're going to cheat the system along the way, and that's why you have such terrible customer service at most of these places, because they're not worried about serving the customer.
That's how Comcast is.
Oh, yeah. They're all just gaming the system. And half the time they're transferring you over to a supervisor's phone. Why? Because that phone doesn't get the survey. That's how that whole thing works. Whenever they're like, oh, hold on, let me put you on my supervisor, the reality is they're getting you off of that phone because that phone could get a survey. And they don't want the survey on that phone because you're upset at that point. And now they're going to put you on the other phone, and they'll just hang up on you or put you on mute for an hour or whatever. They don't care.
Sales is such a fucking interesting job because it's a one-armed knife fight.
Sure.
And the other person has a gun.
Well, yeah, in a lot of cases, you're not in a position of leverage, which is, I'm sure, what you're trying to say here.
Yeah.
You're basically just hoping
shit rolls downhill.
Exactly. I remember with the freight broker, a guy buddies with now used to talk about how you're the biggest asshole in the room until somebody needs you, which is definitely the case with the freight broker. They didn't have a truck coming in. Suddenly you were a very important man, but any other day, they didn't care about you. They didn't want to know anything about you. I mean, that's probably what held me back in the freight brokering world, is that I was never as interested in the lives of my customers as some of the other people that were like, that's how it works. If you want, this is my life advice for anyone in the freight brokering world. You got to just pretty much befriend these people and, be with them as much as you can. And I just never.
You always had one solid lane though. There was a guy out in McMinnville.
Oh yeah. He's still he comments on my Facebook stuff all the time. He's still out there. Ricky, my man Ricky, out in the slanging nursery out in McMinnville. I don't know if you know this or not, but McMinnville is the nursery capital of the world.
I did not know
nursery capital of the United States, which I'm sure is close enough.
Why is it the nursery capital of the United States?
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's just based on the number of nurseries out there, but I can tell you for certain that I've been moving stuff out of there for a while, and it's all going up into the Northeast for the most part. So I'm sure that you have, places out in Oregon and, Pacific Northwest that service that area. But anything in the Northeast, it's coming out of McMinnville, I would say, in a lot of cases.
McMinnville. I remember you guys used to make fun of me because I would say it wrong.
Oh, yeah. Well, McMinnville or whatever. Yeah. I'm sure you can screw that up.
Yeah.
But some great people out there in McMinnville.
Well,
it's the heart of America.
One point, I was again, you were like my sales manager, and I remember you got pissed at me one day because it was something about the tarps. I didn't know about the tarps.
Yeah, the tarps. That's a very tricky part of the nursery game. In fact, that's what kept me in it, in the sense that no one else in the freight brokering world really even bothered with nursery, because no one wanted to deal with finding nursery tarps. But I was literally calling True Values out in McMinnville, trying to cut deals with them, set aside tarps for people and negotiate prices.
Well, explain
silly.
what the day-to-day freight brokerage is, because there's really two parts of the job. There's the part where you're finding the loads, and then you're finding truck drivers to move the loads.
Correct, yes.
So what is that whole process like?
Well, I mean, it varies, clearly. I mean,
Based on whatever your freight is.
It's one of these situations where you're killing yourself, for months trying to get the freight, and then finally they give you these loads. This is just an arbitrary example, but let's just say, I'm trying to get these loads going out every day from Champaign, Illinois to Joplin, Missouri, and everything's going great. At the beginning, you're making $200 on every load, and they're running 3 or 4 times a week, and then suddenly something changes, and no one's going there for less than $1,100 suddenly, which is everything you have in the load. So now you're running these damn things for free, and
you're not making any
money. No, now you're doing this for free, hoping that things will change or you get more money along the way, and then you try to get more money out of them. You lose the business. You drop your rates again. You get it back. Then the trucks, you might have a period where you're making money again. Then things go, you're losing money. It's just
well, the truck drivers fuck with you too.
Oh, well, I mean, it's a war. And that's a sad thing. That is what I wish the world could understand, is that if the brokers and the truck drivers would stop warring with one another and somehow work together, at least not constantly be trying to screw each other, because it was ridiculous. I have yet to work at a single freight brokerage that was not constantly screwing over the truck drivers. Now, it wasn't always their fault. I'm sure sometimes it was accidental, but there's clearly just I have a lot of sympathy for the truck drivers. I like the truck drivers.
Yeah.
And that's where probably part of my downfall as a freight broker is that you must hate the truck driver and you must want the truck driver to suffer, because that is the motive of freight brokering, it appears, because it's basically how they make their money, because they do whatever they need to do for the customer. I'm the opposite. I'm trying to get the truck driver and myself paid all at the same time.
Everybody wins.
Yeah, exactly. But the customer obviously doesn't always agree, and it just depends. But I will say that I have found a few, and I'm sure that there's, if anybody's listening, my old customer, they could appreciate it now, that you can pay people a little extra, and you may not make as much, but it goes a lot smoother. Like, I had these 2 guys. I was running wine from Northern California to Southern California, picked up at 9 p.m. every single night. And it would go down and deliver at like 4 or 5 a.m. in Southern California. So this thing would be loading at like 11 p.m. my time. So if my truck didn't show up, I had a whole bunch of people pissed off calling me at midnight trying to find where my driver is at. So
it was a 24/7 job.
Oh, yeah. Well, for this particular situation, for that customer, yes, it definitely became, until I found my friends, Juan and I forget his other, Juan and Jorge. And they were brothers, and they both owned trucks. And I had these 2 guys going back and forth, because I had 4 loads a week. And it was Juan on Monday and Jorge on Tuesday, and they would just switch back and forth. And they were incredible. They were great drivers. I paid them a good price to begin with, and then I kept it. There was a period of time where I could have I could have gotten rid of them.
Done the TQL thing.
Yeah, I could have done the TQL thing, whatever, the freight brokering thing.
Fucked them over.
And instead of making my $200 per load, I get rid of Juan and Jorge, and I make an extra $400 or $500 per load, and I bring on some no-name guys and hope for the best.
Which is very risky.
Very risky. And that is, and you think about it from the customer perspective, right? Like, they don't want you bringing in the no-name guys. They want you to bring in, because they don't give a shit how much money you're making, right?
No.
That has nothing to do with it.
Reliable.
Yeah, they're giving you the money. They're expecting you to use all of it to book these trucks and put quality people on there. And obviously, they know you got to make your money somehow. But in reality, if they're not giving you enough, it can get ugly, and they'll start putting crappy drivers on there.
Well, it was interesting to me too when, because you would basically, the freight broker would get a load, and when I was first coming on, I was working for Phil. Do you remember Phil?
Phil bald guy?
Yeah, bald guy, yeah.
I was going to say, I'm trying to remember.
So I was under him, and he would get these loads, and then we would post them. And all of these drivers would start blowing up our lines
exactly,
instantly.
Yeah. People fighting over it. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
and
Then you have a good load. That's called the good load, where I had one that was, not so good, where I'm calling people most of the time, where I'm literally, that's a lot of my career has been spent calling out on loads. That's what I've been doing.
And they know whenever you were making that call to them that they're in the power position.
Oh,
because their phone is ringing.
100%. Yes, sir. And that same thing works on the other way. Whoever calls who, and that's negotiating 101 in the sense that if somebody's asking you for something, you are now in control. That is how it works. And so, and it's funny too because people would pretend to not know that they had just called you. Like I'd call somebody and then I'd realize that they had just called me. Like, I don't even want to know. I'm not even. Let's move on.
Okay.
I was going to try and explain something, and I realized this is going to be impossible to explain. So
okay,
I'm going to walk away from that one.
Well, it was TQL was such an interesting experience for me because it was my first job here in Nashville. I never went to college, but it was almost like a little experience in that.
Oh, sure.
Like it felt very much like a frat. And at 9 months deep into the job, I was like one of the people that had survived, because the turnover rate was so high.
9 months of TQL it's saying something. Yeah. They used to congratulate people at a year. Like if you lasted a year here, then that's people know that you've really done something. And also like, what the hell's going on? Why is no one making it a year here? Like, what the fuck is going on around?
It's a cross between a pyramid scheme and a puppy mill.
Oh, well, yeah, in the sense that it's a churn. That's what people I've heard describe as churn factory in the sense that
and they hire them fresh out of college.
I was going to say, well, basically what I was hired on for was because they had burned through everybody in the city of Cincinnati, and their reputation was not so great to the point where they had to start expanding out to various cities. And they were calling it their network team or whatever, and that's what we were brought in for because they couldn't get people from Cincinnati to move out to these satellite offices. So they just brought people in from the areas they were going to put the satellite offices in, train them at the headquarters, and then send them right back out.
I didn't know that.
Yes, exactly. So that's why when I came on, I was working with all these people from different parts of the country, and then they all went right back to where they came from because that's, the original plan altogether because they couldn't get people at Cincinnati to want to leave to go to, Arkansas, Nashville, wherever.
It's funny, dude. There's someone that I met while I was here. My friend Ian. He's a drummer. He's moved back to Michigan since. But we talked about it one day because he worked at TQL up in Michigan.
Oh, wow.
And he had a similar experience.
They're everywhere, yeah.
He was like, it was awful. It's the worst job I've ever had.
I talked to somebody today that was literally asking me like where I worked prior, and I told him TQL. She said, oh, yeah, I think I knew somebody that worked there. And I was like, yeah, it's an interesting place. And you could just tell that she had heard some horrible. She's like, yeah, I heard it was really bad over there. I can only imagine. I remember my first week being there. This is after I moved to Cincinnati. So I moved from Nashville to Cincinnati to take this stupid job. And I'm sitting at the Hofborough House in Newport, Kentucky, at one of these big things, drinking a beer. And this group of girls is sitting next to us, and it was all a bunch of guys for the most part, just new hires. And they told us that they would rather us be grave diggers than working for TQL.
Damn.
That was her reaction to us being members of TQL were not good. So it was definitely a little jarring at first because there's a reputation there, and some of it is, jealousy or whatever, in the sense that they're pissed off they got fired, or they know somebody there that's very successful, or whatever the case may be.
It's very cutthroat.
Oh yeah, well there's some people that are making some money, so there's people out there that are probably pissing people off, but it's a short-lived world. People
you burn out.
Well, it's not made for people to do for long periods of time, and I'm sure that with the right support it can be done, but the average guy with a family is not going to have a happy time trying to go into the brokering world, in the sense that you're pretty much You're gonna have a hard time. You're gonna have a hard time.
So all of that was going on. You start to transition to the food truck to
Yes.
get out of that life.
Yeah, I mean, well, that was also just an opportunity in the sense that, I had been presented with the idea of doing the food truck because of the Nashville hot wing competition, and I think you were there for that when I did
I remember that now.
So I had done. It was like a charity-related thing for for TQL, and we entered in as a charity event, and donated whatever to the. I don't know if I remember what the charity was, but in any event, we got 6th place at the Nashville hot wing competition. And one of our coworkers asked me to do the pierogi truck, so it was.
Explain a little bit about pierogies and what they are.
So the best way that I can describe a pierogi is kind of like a gourmet Hot Pocket in the sense that it is just like a pocket of various fillings that you can put in there. Now, traditionally it's potato or cabbage or something of that nature. It's typically
It's a Polish
or Ukrainian, Russian, whatever you want to call it. I don't know who the official creators are. From what I understood, it's Polish, but I don't know if that's actually. I don't want to be mad at me, but basically it's just a dough with a little piece of potato in the middle of it. You roll it back up, and you can boil it. And we used to boil it and then just fry it in some butter. And you can get them at the store. The ones that are at the store are probably not very good. There is actually one place in all of Nashville that does. I've seen, there might be more than one, but the only one I know of is Extravaganza off Nolensville Road. They're owned by Ukrainians, and they are definitely making legit, real pierogi. So that is one place you can go and get it if you're out that way. But
I remember whenever you came to my place, you brought the food truck and all of that, and you also gave me some pierogies to try.
Sure, yeah.
And one of them was the short rib pierogi, which I was a big fan of.
Yeah.
And there was, I can't remember if there was like a dessert one or not.
We did we may have tried it. I don't know if we may have experimented with something when you were there, but I know we had the donuts. We had the punchkis, which is
that's what it was.
The Polish donuts. They're supposed to be like jelly filled, but we decided to go against that and just make the donuts and have people just dip it in jelly.
Yeah.
But they're very good. They're kind of akin to if you go to the Chinese buffet and those little like sugar covered donut things that they sell, they're very similar to that, but it's like a yeast donut. Very tasty. Very highly recommend them if you're in an area that sells them. Definitely try them out. But I really like the pierogi because it gave me an opportunity to come up with new fillings and have some creativity with that. And all my cooking, I don't really want to get stuck in a situation where I'm cooking the same thing over and over again, which is typically what's going on inside of a restaurant in the sense that you might be at the grill station making 4 or 5 different items, but you're still making those 4 or 5 different things over and over again. It's just
all
like an
day.
assembly line. Yeah, it's not really something I'm really trying to do. So
burger, chicken, steak, and then it's just that.
I like to create things. I like to try new menu items. Obviously, right now I'm doing a lot of stuff where I'm making stuff that I've made before, but I definitely want to start messing around with making new, different things, which is normally what I'm doing anyway. I'm constantly trying new and different techniques and types of foods.
What have you been experimenting with lately?
I guess the newest thing that I actually did put it on the menu. It's a French recipe called 40 garlic chicken, which is basically just brown chicken thighs and then
bone in or boneless?
Bone in, skin on chicken thighs, brown them on both sides, and you throw about 40 cloves of garlic into the pan, just kind of saute them in some oil or the chicken fat from whatever you had left over, and then put them back into the pan with some chicken stock and wine, cover them for an hour, and then when they come back out. So that's the thing I think people don't realize with chicken breasts, they think you got to be real careful because you'll dry it out and it gets gross. With a chicken thigh, you almost want to overcook it, or you want to think of it as
it makes it juicier, right?
It's more and more tender. It's more and more juicy. It's just better. So you can't really overcook a chicken thigh. I'm sure somebody would argue with me on that. But in my opinion, you can't really overcook a chicken thigh. So it's just sitting in the wine and the chicken broth, and you have some herbs in there. I think it's like thyme and rosemary and whatnot. But yeah, it's very, very tasty. It's apparently very common.
40 garlic chicken, you said.
40 garlic chicken is a very common French cuisine type thing, which, you know, I think I've always been somewhat drawn to French cooking in the sense that it's kind of the top tier of the culinary world. Obviously, Italian cooking is nothing to be ashamed of by any means, but it's the fanciest. Let's say it. It's the fanciest form of cooking. I have my sister-in-law who's currently living in Lyon, France, which is the culinary capital of France. So if France is the culinary capital of the world, then Lyon is whatever. Lyon,
I
France.
get what you're saying. Yeah.
Lyon, France is the
it's the spot.
Culinary capital of the world, and they have some kind of fog light. Glasses
We're getting real steamy
in here, dude. There was some thing that they had there. I'd have to look up the name of it, but basically the way they described it was like a crab bisque with a piece of fish that was like kind of, I guess it must have been like tossed in egg whites or something of that nature, and it's just like almost like a puffy omelet. I don't know if you're familiar with if you take the egg whites and the egg yolks and whisk them real good outside and like throw them in the oven, the egg whites, the egg itself will just rise up to this giant poof. And I think they put like a piece of fish in the middle of it, and it's apparently it's the official Lyon dish. Everyone serves it, and it's apparently amazing. So that's probably on my to-do list as far as my next culinary adventure, is trying to recreate whatever this thing is from Lyon. That's probably going to be a little challenging, but we'll see how it goes. I don't think it's going to be too bad.
Well, talk a little bit about your menu as it is right now. What do you have on it?
Yeah, so making the menu is interesting just because I was just going through everything that I feel comfortable making for people that I've made multiple times, and going through it was just kind of like a journey in itself, in the sense that I'm going through the timeline of my life and all the different things that I have started to cook along the way. Like, some of these things are from college, some of these things are from high school, some of these things are from post-college, whatever. For example, one of the items is the Red Bar crab cakes, which was a place right around, it was outside of Destin. It wasn't Destin, Florida, but not far from there. And people would come for miles to go to this place. It was cash only, very cool.
Like Divey Beach vibe?
Divey Beach vibe, yeah. I'm sure you could look it up. It was a big deal. I think it burned down. I think there was also another one owned by his brother. But in any event, I think it had like live jazz music. Very cool place. I don't remember everything, but I remember it being cash only, and I remember their crab cakes were incredible. And that's what everybody went there for. And you go out there, sometimes they'd run out, and people would be furious.
And was that it for the day?
Well, they had other things on the menu that you could order, but yeah, that was it. There was no more. Once the crab cakes were gone, they're gone. And I remember I think I was at my wife's place, my in-laws' place, and there was a grocery store in Cincinnati called Jungle Jim's, which is like it's the greatest grocery store ever created, in the sense that it's just enormous and has everything you could ever imagine. For somebody like me, Jungle Jim's is a magical place. I'd go there once a week when I lived in Cincinnati. Whenever I go back to visit my in-laws, I go there at least every chance I get. I'll go for like hours at a time, so I don't get to go as much as I'd like. But in any event, they have great seafood selection, and so I went there and got some crab, got some shrimp, whatever else, and made a bunch of shrimp. And one of the things I made was the Red Bar crab cakes, because I had found this recipe on like the internet. It's like food.com, some like arbitrary website. And I was like, I can't believe they actually have this, and it looks to be legitimate. And I made it, and it is 100%. Like, I can't say that I honestly remember what the crab cake tastes like, but it is.
But you remember the experience,
though.
Yeah,
I can tell you that this has got to be really, really close. Wherever this recipe came from, it is definitely either the exact recipe or somebody that worked there that was like making these damn things that somehow like stole the sheet or whatever. But
Well, the real question is, if you would have puked and you had leftovers, would you have gone back to eat more?
I would definitely. Yeah, there's not much that I make there. I wouldn't make it. Anything that's on the menu is a winner. You know what I mean? Like nothing. I don't have anything on there. And now some things are like sides that are just kind of accoutrements, but any of the sides are on there because they're winners. These are winners.
So you're making these crab cakes. What else is on there?
There's all kinds of things. I mean, obviously, we can do the weird stuff. Like the weirdest thing that's on there is a turducken, which is you're talking about my culinary journey. That was something I put together while I was doing Thanksgiving in Cincinnati, because we basically had to work one holiday, and it was either like Christmas or Thanksgiving. You had to like pick one basically.
Yep.
Or New Year's, whatever. So a few of us just said, "Screw, we'll just do Thanksgiving so we can go home for Christmas." And like I told you before, these are all people from different parts of the country. Nobody had any family, friends, anyone there. If they were in town, we were it.
It was a Friendsgiving.
It was the original Friendsgiving. Before there was a Friendsgiving, this was by default, because this is like I felt like I was cooking for orphans in the sense that just like these people had no family, nobody else. If I wasn't cooking, there was nobody cooking. Basically, is what I had come down. So I just figured I might as well get weird with it, and found some YouTube videos on how to make turducken, and if anybody's interested, it's not that difficult. The reality is it's mostly butchering. You're basically deboning an entire chicken, deboning an entire duck, and then taking all the bones out of a turkey except for the legs. And then you lay the turkey out, a layer of stuffing, put down the duck, layer of stuffing, put down the chicken, layer of stuffing, and then you sew the son of a bitch back together and throw them in the oven until it's done. It's nice because you get this nice slice of boneless meat and dressing, basically, or whatever, the stuffing. And the gravy that comes along with it is really the star, in the sense that you have the duck fat, the chicken fat, and the turkey fat all just kind of coming together and creating this whole new flavor.
Poultry.
It is truly, I don't know. Poultry is chicken, I think. So.
Oh, is turkey not?
I don't think so. I could be wrong.
I didn't know that. See, I've never had
Maybe
duck
you're right. No, I'm done.
that I thought was prepared well. I've always felt like it's
not easy. Yeah,
too greasy.
Yeah,
whenever I've had it.
That's the word that people use, and it's inside of the bird. So I can tell you right now, there's not really much you can do about it in the sense that it's going to cook, but you leave the skin on. I do remember that you take off, any of the excess, because on a duck there is a lot of excess fat, or a lot of excess skin. But you do remove as much of the skin as possible. But I don't remember It was delicious. Yeah, it cooks down.
What other weird items?
Poultry. Yeah, there you go. I was wrong. Shows how much I know. Shows how much I know.
It was a poultry
Just
special.
Edit out my stupid comment, please.
What else do you have on the menu?
What else do we have?
What are some classic like Italian dishes?
Yeah.
Do you have like your Johnny spin on it?
So yeah, definitely. I would say my two favorite, the ones that I grew up like when I go with my grandfather, like eat Italian food when I was a kid. I would get the chicken francese. That's pretty much my favorite Italian dish, I would say, for the most part. And it's really great and underutilized in the sense that it is white meat chicken. It's a lemon wine chicken, basically. And you keep it in the sauce, and it's got like it's breaded, but it's just breaded with a little bit of flour, and then you just kind of toss it in some egg, the egg washer or whatever. And then you just throw it right in the pan and then set it aside, and then you make your sauce. And typically for a francese, it involves chicken stock. And I had done that a few times when I was first trying this out, and decided that I'm not a chicken stock guy, and I've decided that I'm doing all wine, and I add butter at the end. So basically...
Why, though? Fill us in why you prefer...
I tried it. And obviously I grew up eating the francese at the restaurant I went to, so I'm somewhat familiar with it, but at the same time, it just didn't hit the same. It was a little less. It was more bland. I just wanted more wine. I wanted more wine. Was basically at the end of the day. I was like, I need more wine in this, and my method has essentially turned into basically for the Frances, it's almost like a lemon shallot mixture of, sorry, I'm just blanking out here. So it's basically lemon zest and shallots, and then I add in about a bottle of, in this case, Riesling, in the sense that I liked a little bit of sweetness to my lemon butter chicken, basically, is what's happening here. And I'll let that cook down by about half. So now the wine is just like kind of a strong, it's too strong at this point. If you were to taste it at this point, you'd be like, oh no, that's too strong. I can't use this. And then that's when you add in the butter. So you add in maybe like most of a stick of butter at that point. And these are things that I just made up. This is not from a recipe. I'm sure there's somebody out there.
This is trial and error.
Basically, yeah. It's a situation where I didn't really have a recipe that I liked, so I just kept screwing around with it and playing with it, and got to a point where I really like it now. And I think basically once you cook down that wine and add the butter in, it gets to a kind of a mellower flavor. It mellows it out, basically. The butter and the fortified wine, I guess you'd call it, come together and make love, basically. Then you put the chicken in there that you'd already kind of browned or whatever, and it just sits in that sauce. And you keep it on low, and you could leave that for a long time, basically, and it's not going to dry out. It's not going to get gross. What I'm saying is, you go to like weddings and stuff, and you get these people's chicken dishes, and it's like this dried out rubbery piece of chicken. And I'm telling you, if they made chicken franchise and used this, white chicken breast that's sitting in a bath of butter and wine, it will be moist, delicious, and not dry out. So,
when you get together with your friends or family, is there a dish that they always ask you to make?
I would say with certain friends, like if we do any kind of like barbecue thing, they always want my bacon and blue cheese coleslaw. So if people are having like group over for whatever barbecue at their house, they want that as their side, because that's something that I used to have people over and do barbecues, and that would be one of my go-to sides. I remember that's another thing in college, whatever, where I went ate barbecue at some place and had their coleslaw, and they had bacon and blue cheese. The first time I ever had bacon and blue cheese in a coleslaw. I was like, I don't know what everybody's missing. This is clearly the way to eat coleslaw. Yeah, the blue cheese, because I've had people tell me that 100 times. Like, dude, I don't eat coleslaw, but I eat your coleslaw because it's got bacon and blue cheese. It's not even coleslaw anymore. But I have had plenty of great coleslaw that does not have bacon and blue cheese in it. But if you want a crowd-pleasing coleslaw, add bacon and blue cheese.
What else? Like around the holidays, when you're getting together with your family, people are coming in. Is there anything that
I like? Calamari. Like if we're talking about like Christmas time, like I did the Feast of the Seven Fishes for my in-laws a couple years ago, and I was not allowed to do it again after, just because it stunk up our house. It's definitely we'll do it again, to be clear. I just wanted to do it every year, and I was trying to plant that in my wife's head, and she was
like, no.
She was very resistant. Yes, the idea of 7 fishes every Christmas Eve was just too much for her to bear, which is, kind of a shame, but also, it's good to have some variety. I don't need to eat 7 fishes. It was a lot of work. I would be willing to do it again for certain occasions, but it was a lot. It was, I could actually tell you exactly what we made if you want.
Sure.
Yeah. Let's have it on. If you can keep I was going to say, keep going on.
So, your wife and kids, when Dad is making dinner, what are they excited? If you're like, we're having XYZ tonight.
I can tell you that my son does not get excited when we go out to dinner. He literally he hates restaurants. That's what he says. I hate restaurants every time we go anywhere. Now, there's a couple places we've got him on board with, but outside of that,
he prefers you.
He wants me. And it's always just, and I think it's a lot of the fact that he's just a kid that just wants the same things over and over again. He literally just switches back and it's not like I'm doing anything too fancy. He's eating chicken nuggets and chicken sausages. He does eat sushi rice and avocado, sliced avocado, and he literally makes little sushi rolls with the avocado. So that's something different. But my daughter, basically the same thing. She eats Annie's mac and cheese, chicken sausage, chicken nuggets. These things are not hard to make. Now I do make they eat my pasta sauce. That was a little bit of a challenge in the beginning in the sense I had to de-spicify it a little bit. It was a little too spicy for them first few rounds, but yeah, they're on board now. So I basically, their meals mostly consist of chicken nuggets and pasta.
What about your wife? What is her favorite thing that you make?
Ooh, she likes the spicy tuna on crispy rice. I don't know if you saw that little video
I did,
made the other day. That's probably her. I see her get the most excited about that. She does like my meatballs a lot. That's a big one. Yeah, I'm trying to think of all her faves. I know she definitely is a big proponent of that 40 garlic chicken. She's like, this is something you need to start. Next time we have somebody over, you need to make this because this is really good. But there's a lot of stuff. I do the Mas Tacos chicken tortilla soup, which is incredible. If you've never been to Mas Tacos, I highly recommend you get over there and order everything because that is by far the best food for your dollar in the whole city, in my opinion. Like, I can't imagine going somewhere and getting more good food for less money because that is tippy top. Because I like everything. I like the plantains, the soup. I get two tacos. What I do is take the tilapia and the avocado. I take half of each and kind of mix them. I'm sure I could get them to do it for me, but I like to mix my avocado and my tilapia at the Mas Tacos. And then
you like to curate your own experience.
I do. I like to be off menu kind of guy. And the elote, can't miss that. I mean, everything on there is just great. So.
Dude, there's a really funny video. It's of a guy doing an Anthony Bourdain impression, but he's going to Cheesecake Factory and Hooters,
trying to pretend like he's at some very high end or culturally significant spot. Yeah, I like that.
Dude,
I have not seen it.
I'll send it to you.
Send it, yes.
It's so fucking funny because he's spot on. His impression in the way that it's written, in the way that he talks about Cheesecake Factory or Hooters or whatever. I was dying laughing because
I'm sure you could have a lot of fun with that. See, that's one of those things you'd have to be he obviously was a fan of the show, right?
Yeah.
You got to know.
He has him down to a T.
Exactly.
His exact rhythm, his exact tone.
He
wears his sunglasses
I watched all
indoors.
Kinds of Food Network people. I feel like most of those people. I never was an Anthony Bourdain guy. I never really.
Who was your go-to? Who were you a fan of?
I mean, as a young person, I really liked Emeril. Emeril was my...
Bam!
I felt like Emeril was the guy. He was my Elvis as a young boy. Which, if you think about it, he was a big deal. I don't know if you remember.
I remember, dude.
He was all over the grocery store as far as... There wasn't a product that wasn't Emerilized, basically.
Yeah.
The Essence, I think I had a jar of that in our... house for at least
and it was called
5 years.
Bam on everything too, right?
Well, I think they would throw that on there, but the Essence was the name of his secret spice that you would buy. That's what you would buy at the store was the Essence, and then he had various other sauces. But I remember trying to make some of his stuff as a young kid. I'll make some Emeril whatever. This is the top tier. Let's make some Emeril stuff, and I can tell you now that what Emeril does and what I do is the two different sides of the equation in the sense that I'm much more interested in simplicity. I want to be able to kind of taste each ingredient. I don't want anything getting overpowered. I feel like people get way too caught up in putting little bits of every little possible thing in there. And I'm sure in his case it might just be classically trained type.
Because he was from
recipes.
New Orleans.
He's a New Orleans guy, yeah, for sure. Which you'd look at. I remember my grandfather thinking he was an Italian guy because he kind of comes off that way, but he's not. He's New Orleans. I don't even know what nationality he is, but I don't think he's Italian. But it doesn't matter anyway. But
what are some of your favorite food spots from around the country? What do you think some of the best food cities are?
I don't probably think that I have done enough traveling to weigh in on certain places. Obviously, I mean, I'm from New York. I grew up going there. I don't imagine there's a place better than New York City as far as food.
Well, there's just everything there.
Well, it's just, like, for example, I go to a Chinese place down the street from my sister in New Hyde Park, and it's one of the better Chinese places I've ever had in my life. So it's relative in the sense that Chinese food here is probably not going to be anywhere as good.
Chinese is shit in Nashville,
I can tell you there's only one place that I will go to.
What's the place?
Well, it's not entirely true. I'll go to other places, but the best place is Ching's Bistro in West Haven.
I've never been there.
Yeah, you need to go try it. It's not far from
here. Yeah.
And it is incredible. I go out there whenever I get a chance, I guess, in the sense that I like Chinese food. Like sesame chicken might be my favorite food, if I'm being completely honest with myself. Like that's what I grew up going to Chinese buffets, and that was like I can't imagine.
That was your shit.
That was my jam. Yeah, I loved the Chinese buffet because I loved all the variety. I think that's going to be, could be a great concept for the business in the sense that do like a Chinese buffet style layout.
It's hard to find.
You can't find it. It doesn't exist anymore. And if you could find it, well, it does exist. And it's the scariest places you've ever been to because I've been to these places. Any of the all-you-can-eat buffets in the Nashville area I've probably been to, and most of them are terrifying. So
there was one good place. It's called New Dragon Phoenix. I don't know if it even exists anymore, but it's on
by Donaldson.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah. But that was one of the places that I think is good. There's another place that's right over here on Charlotte Pike that's actually pretty fucking good. But those are the only two places in my 10 years of living here that I found that were good Chinese.
So I grew up here, and there were some places that were truly amazing. And that is why I have I have a high bar. So I'm not used to, but I have had some really, really good Chinese food at Chinese buffets. And some of them used to exist here. And one of them was right over by like the Home Depot in Antioch, kind of. It was called
on Bell Road?
Yeah, it was called the Evergreen. You can kind of see the remnants of what it was. It's now like some dance club, I think, at the end of that little strip mall. It's like
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It looks like a Chinese-style building, but yeah, it was incredible. That place was insanely good. There was another place in Cool Springs, like Ming's, I think it was, and then the Panda, which turned into the Canton, that just slowly died. I remember just going to college. And I remember being in high school. That's probably when I would say is when it died, because I remember going to high school, eating there, loving it. And then I'd come back from college, and every time I came back, it was like got a little worse. And it got a little worse, and then finally
Fell
closed.
off.
Oh, it was gross by the end. Like I was like, I can't even go here anymore.
Well, there's a couple of good Thai places in Nashville.
Oh,
there's a couple of good Korean places.
Oh, I can tell you, there's some great places for Vietnamese food. The VN Pho off of Charlotte is incredible. That's probably my favorite Vietnamese place. And then we have some really good. Oh, the Korean place out in Cool Springs is Mi Kitchen, which is like Korean tapas, and it's so good to the point where most of it has no meat in it. Like there's some meat, they have steaks and like the Korean fried chicken or whatever is a big one over there. But I can go in there and not eat a single meat item and be very satisfied because they are so good. And like for me to say that is saying something, because I feel like typically I need some kind of protein in most of my meals. Like I don't mind, whatever as far as like appetizers, but it's a tapas place, so they're pretty much all kind of appetizers, but this guy is special. I'm telling you, Mi Kitchen in Cool Springs, very, very tasty.
I'll have to try it.
Yes.
Have you been to Deg Thai on Nolensville?
I've heard of I think it was a food truck at one point, but I don't think I've been in there, no. Usually, as far as my Thai food, I go to Jasmine in Cool Springs. Is usually
I haven't been there.
Which was, if you go there, get like 15 of the spring rolls, because they sell them for like $1.50 a piece, and I'll get like 6 of them and eat them all. The spring, they must make them themselves because they're incredible. You literally just eat the spring rolls.
Eastern Peak is good too.
Eastern Peak, I remember going there a few times. I think I went I think I went one time. I was less than impressed. And the first time I went, I think I really liked it. Went back and was like, ugh. But I think it's kind of a chain type setup.
It is, yeah.
Try to go to the real places. There's also the best Korean fried chicken wings I have had in the city is at Umami in Lenox Village. It's like a little bar kind of at the bottom of the, but I always get the wings. I don't know what else. I'm sure there's some other great items there, but their wings are very, very, very good. It's probably one of the better wings in the sense that it is just like very well cooked. Like they're juicy every time. It's not dried out like most places you go to. Sometimes they're a little generous on how long they leave the wings in the fryer.
Yeah.
So, these people have it down to a science. It's
my
perfect.
favorite wings in Nashville, Sam's Place. I love Sam's Place.
I was going to say, I have had. I remember
we went there together.
I ate there with you. Yeah. Sam's got great wings. I mean, I would put that as good as anybody else's. I grew up again eating a lot of Hooters wings. Hooters is always.
I've never had Hooters.
So Hooters can be delicious, and in fact, I used the store-bought Hooters wing sauce on my wings at home. I mix the medium and the hot, and if you
step on it a little bit,
if you fry your own wings and throw it in that Hooters sauce, I don't think there's much better out there in the sense that I've made wing sauces. I mean, it's not like I've never made a wing sauce. I've made 100 wing sauces, and it just doesn't taste quite as good as the Hooters store-bought. And that shit's not, it's like $5 for a jar, so it's not worth the effort. Like if I could somehow produce something that was better, it'd have to be significantly better. If I could produce something significantly better than that jarred Hooters wing sauce, I'd do it. But I've tried, and it's good. So people are like thinking I'm crazy, but that's because the wings that they had were crappy wings that were probably like, D-grade.
Yeah.
And then they also sat in the window for like 5 minutes. If you've ever had if you had Hooters enough and you've had it fresh from the window or whatever, you had a good server that actually brought it to you right as it was finished, they're very good.
This is I feel like the third time in the past couple of months that Hooters has come up on the podcast.
I mean, it's
talking about the wings.
It's a piece of Americana. You know what I mean? I don't know what to tell you. It's. I'd like to say it's not going away, but apparently it is.
Yeah.
But hopefully they keep the sauce in the stores. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to get creative. But yeah, I made a number of wing sauces, and I really do think that it's up there. Now you got to mix the hot and the medium because the hot's too hot. I don't know what it is, because if I get hot at the restaurant, it's fine. But if you get hot at the grocery store, it's pretty hot. It's a little intense. So you mix the medium in there. It's real nice. Real nice.
Where can people find you at, John?
Oh, they can find me.
This is your camera right here.
Yeah. SouthernItalianChef.com. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok at Southern Italian Chef.
Johnny, thank you so much for coming on.
Always a pleasure. I'm going to give you one of these.
Yeah. Sign us off.
I don't know how that sound came through, but we'll hope for the best.
Keep on dreaming. See you next week.